Alright, so this is the first step. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your source. In this case, my source is 1920 by 816. This is Flash Gordon from the 1980s. I'm pretty positive it does not have a 4K release, only 1080. It has quite a bit of grain. If I move along here, you can see it playing throughout into the sky. We'll zoom in here so you can see a little better. Got a lot of noise. But the great thing about this is when we're doing this, this doesn't really matter for the black and white pass, only for the color pass later on, which is easier to handle. So what we'll do is we take this, we go to the color tab, and then you want to bring saturation to 0. Once saturation is at 0, we want to then take this mid/detail slider and bring it all the way up to 100. This will increase all the detail of the image, gives it more information for the enhancer to pull off of, which means less information lost on the final upscale and more information gained on the final upscale. Once all this is completed, you go to your export tab, you name it, you choose your format. For the most compatible way of doing this, I usually choose something like MP4, H.264 with NVIDIA encoder and network optimization. For quality, you can keep it at best, but that's going to be a really big file size. I suggest all around good restriction is around 20 to 20,000 kilobits a second. For your encoder profile, set it to high. You can also, on your final run, when you're completing everything, you can set it to high 10. That'll be 10-bit, which will reduce more banding in your final result. But for now, since we're not really worried about that, and it'll be handled by the enhancer, we're just going to go high. For rate control, do constant. Preset, you can just do medium. You don't need to do slow or slower. For tuning, keep it high quality. And for 2-pass, I always like to do a full 2-pass, just to make sure everything's ironed out enough. Disable the adaptive B-frame. You don't need that. And then under here, under advanced settings, make sure you have force debayer to highest quality and force sizing to highest quality on, and bypass re-encoding when possible. Then you'll have your name, you pick your location, click add to render queue, and then render all when it comes out, and then you're off to step 2. Alright, now this is step 2. In this step, I'll first start off by showing you how to add the model. So normally you'd go to open model db.info, and then go here, make sure you're on latest, and you have a couple of options here. Right now I am using broadcast to studio, so if I type it in here I can show you. This is broadcast to studio. This is what it kind of does. That's before, that's after. So it cleans up a lot of that hailing, cleans up a lot of that grain in the background. Does a really decent job at retaining detail, especially in the black and white. I use that for my 720 and my 1080p. But there's also a newer model that's out that is called Archiver. There's a few versions of it. There's Archiver Soft, Rough, RGB, Medium, and Anti-Lines. For your purpose, if you're doing like early 80s, 70s content with a lot of grain, rough might be a little too aggressive for a lot of them, but sometimes you get a lot of rough sources that kind of look like this. This might be useful or beneficial to you. But most of you are going to find your benefits from Archiver Anti-Lines or Archiver Soft or Medium. I'm using Archiver Soft currently because I find it to be kind of a good middle ground. But Archiver Anti-Lines is probably just about as good. But yeah, once you find these, you click one, you click download for your PyTorch or PTH file. It'll then download into your downloads folder. Like for instance, this one, the 2X GT EVA, is a model that I'm using as well. You drag that. Actually, you don't even need to drag it. You can just keep it in that folder if you want to. You open up Real Video Enhancer. You click this little download box in the bottom left corner. And then right here it says Import Custom Upscale Model, where it says Select Model, PyTorch, TensorRT, or .pth. You click that. And then you just go ahead and you find that file. And you add it in. It'll tell you need to restart the program. Obviously, I didn't click a model, so it doesn't say that right now, but it'll say you need to restart for it to take effect. You just click OK, and then you close out of it or reboot it up. And then once you reboot it, you can go right here, click the upscale checkbox right here, and then it should be in this drop-down menu. Once it's in the drop-down menu, you can select it. For this case, I'll use the soft just to give you an idea. Keep it at 1, or if it says 2, set it to 1. You can also do a decompression with DH264 if you want to. For this specific case, since it's an older formatted movie, I kind of want to use the decompression model to just decompress the rest of the video to make it look as good as possible for the next step. So what we do is we do select input file. We select the black and white. Once it's loaded in, it'll default probably to your main drive, but if you don't want to inflate your main drive, you can go select output folder and then choose a different folder. In this case, I'm going to use E. Once you have either your upscale or your upscale and decompression set to go, you click Add to Render Queue, and then you click this button right here, and then you can head to log and you can watch it all go. It'll take a few minutes on first boot up because it needs to load in the models. So don't think that it's frozen or anything. Just give it, I don't know, say about 2 or 3 minutes for it to figure itself out and update the model and put it in. And then it should start processing relatively quickly, actually. Let's see. Right here, you can get a little info. This is my last pass, so you're going to see similar to this. What you're going to see first is you're probably going to see something like this. It's going to say it's loading in the engine. This may take a while. And you'll be sitting on this may take a while for about 2 or 3 minutes for it to load up all the models. Once it's done, it'll move on and it'll go to the whole encoding step and everything with your FFmpeg settings that are inside the settings that you have decided to put on it. And this is pretty much the end of step 2. We're going to be moving on to step 3. Alright, so this is step 3. Step 3 is your final step to getting your final upscale. So in this step, it's pretty straightforward. Go back into DaVinci. You want to add your colored source to your library. You want to add your enhanced black and white source also into your library. Then you want to drag your black and white enhanced source to video 1 and your colored source to video 2. Once you have both of those settled, you want to go to video 2 here, go to composite underneath your video tab and inspector, and then choose color. That'll add the color on top of the black and white image, and since the images match and the frames match, the colors will match as well. Now once you do that, you can do a couple extra things here. What I like to do is I like to go back to video 1. I go to the color tab, zoom out a little bit here, and in this area what I like to do is I like to go to video 1, go to a frame that makes sense here. I bring the video 1 detail back down to around neg 60. That'll smooth out all those super enhanced areas that don't really need to be there. It's just too much detail. It's not necessary. Once that's done, you can then do a couple extra things. For instance, you can go back to your timeline here, And then you go to Effects, type in Sharp, find Sharpen, and then drag it onto your video one. And you can keep it pretty much default. And if you want to, if it's too much sharpening for you, you can lower it down to like 0.5 on the blend. And that will give you a little extra detail that you didn't have before. Subtle enough not to make too big of a difference, but just enough to make it look nice and sharp and clean, especially on these areas right here. You can see it really brings the detail in the hair and the paper edges out. Once you do that, you still want to stay on video one. I'm going to go back to video, and then you want to go to AI Superscale, open that up, but before you activate it, make sure you go to your timeline settings down here in project settings, bottom right corner. Open that up, and you want to set this to 2x the scale of what the video is. So right now this is 1920 by 816, so you're going to want to double that. So you're going to go 3840. What is that? 1632. Save that, and then it will upscale it up to that size. And then, since it is a multiple of 1920 by 816, it'll resize this properly. You go 2x NVIDIA RTX video, and then click Ultra. That'll clean up all the extra noise that you see. So that's what it looks like right now with the Superscale. This is without it. With it, so you can see fixes a lot of those tiny little issues that you don't think is a big deal until you actually watch it. It doesn't degrade the detail really at all. It just kind of fine-tunes it out. As you can see. And that'll bring it up to a nice scale for you. And then from here, you can scroll. Mute this real quick so we don't annoy you. So you can see this very high detail here. At this point, you can do all kinds of things. Like you can keep the color as is here. Or you can go into Color tab. You can click into the grid and click Alt-S on your keyboard. That'll add a new node. And then you can add things like a color space transformer. Input, usually the most common input is Rec 709 with a gamma of around 2.2. And then with the output color space, you can do something a little bit different here. You can do like P3D60 with a Rec 2100 ST 2084, or you can go just regular ST 2084. And that'll bring down the colors a little bit, keep it more in line with more of like an HDR content or HDR TV. Kind of dribbles down the color, but it does help with detail. It makes the detail look a little bit better. And turn it off, turn it back on. And if you don't have enough color here, you can always add a little bit by boosting the saturation up. Bring it to like a 74, and that brings a lot of that color back, but doesn't oversaturate. Right here, get a lot of oversaturation. That brings it back to normal levels. You can even go a little higher if you want to. So this is full 100. We'll bring it down to like an 85 maybe. That looks good. It's not too overpowering, but it also brings a lot of color into the image. Super oversaturated. A little bit better. Now, of course, you can always keep the oversaturated look. No one's stopping you. I'm going to boost this all the way up to 100 just because I can. But I like this a little bit better because, as you can see in the detail in this dress here, see the wrinkles. But when you oversaturate it with its regular normal colors, you get this haloing effect right here on the edges. Get this over post-processing, over contrast and saturation. With this, it cleans it right out, gets rid of all those errors, cleans out the image. You can actually see the detail in the dress and all that stuff. So it really helps with that 4K effect, that 4K detailed effect. Once you're done that, you can go back to your timeline here. Everything should be good. To get rid of a lot of the noise, since we're only pulling the color from the video 2, what we can do is we can go into our Fusion tab. We can go to our effects, type in noise, and then under film here with remove noise, you just drag and drop that right into your line here. Go to chroma, click lock, and then bring the softness up a little bit here, and then bring the detail up to about the same. We'll zoom into the back here so you can see what this kind of does. Just a good example here. So we zoom in, look at the edge of this cloud, see how it's all noisy and messed up. Click remove noise, smooths that out for you. Gets rid of all that noise and grain in the background. And since we're only distributing the colors onto the black and white, and the black and white is what's retaining the details don't particularly matter too much in the video 2 colored version. You don't want to go max like this, because then you're going to lose a little bit of detail in the color. And you still want to keep a slight bit of sharpness in it. So you want to go somewhere with like a middle ground here, a little less than a middle ground. Maybe even less, just a little bit. Just enough to clean up that little bit of a mess back there. Once you have that set, you can go back into your timeline here and you can see it cleans up that area with your color. Now at this point, if you're a person who prefers having some grain back in your image, you can go back to your color tab, click Alt S again, and then type in grain. And under Resolve FX Film Emulation, you'll see film grain. You just drag that onto that node, and then pick your preferred film grain preset. I like 35 millimeter, and I like the grain being a little bit more visible than half. And that will add grain into the image. But right now I just did a little oopsie. I did it on the colored version, which is wrong, so we'll just get rid of that, delete this. You want to be on the black and white version when you're doing the grain. So yeah, we'll do this frame here. It's not pretty, but it'll do. Alt S again, film grain, drag drop. You want to go 35 millimeter. There's 35 millimeter, there's 35 millimeter, 200 and 400. Regular 35 mil is fine. I like bringing it up a little bit higher than 5. And as you can see, it adds that grain. Now you can change your grain size. I like to lower it a little bit. And then if the grain is still a little too noticeable, you can drop it a little bit more back towards 0.5. And that'll add grain back into your image, which will help with skin texture. Very subtle, but overall very noticeable in the final result. So if we go back here and we play the video, we get a quality upscale. As you can see, a majority of the noise is completely gone out of here. It's still a little bit bouncy. But if you are worried about that, you can always do something else too. There's an option to do a little bit of a deflicker in the Luma, setting it very, very low where you retain most of the detail, but it just takes out that little bit of a flicker. But it's not really necessary. It's not something that you have to do. This is perfectly fine. As you can see, there's really no serious noise in the background. The image is nice and clean. much better detail. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the workflow. After that, you would pretty much set it out at your encoding settings that you prefer, like usual. If you have DaVinci up the entire time while you're doing this process and you're just doing everything in one project, usually this will be pretty much preset for you. You only have to change a couple things, like this will change sometimes. Put it back to high. Um, and obviously it'll say untitled, you just name it again. But most of this will stay the same if you're sitting in the same project at the exact same time. And then you just export it out and you have your 4K upscaled version of your media. I hope this helps. It's not too hard of a workflow, but it is slightly time consuming when it comes to effort. But it's very simple. It's mostly slider play and drag and drop and waiting. So as long as you're okay with waiting and you're okay with a little bit of drag and drop and a little bit of slider play, this is a perfect option for you for 4K upscale. In my opinion, so far, this is probably the best 4K upscales I've gotten off media like this. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.